Hello all you historians out there, and welcome to your third lesson on the causes of the Industrial Revolution. In this lesson we're going to look at transport technologies and how they led to and caused the Industrial Revolution. This is the third lesson located under the Causes tab of the Industrial Revolution website. So your learning attention and success criteria, so you're to know is the evolution of transport during the Industrial Revolution, and you're to be able to is explain the impact of railways and canals on British society during the Industrial Revolution. So let's have a look at the overview and developments in transport technologies that supported the Industrial Revolution. So the creation of canals and railroads helped the economy that created them. Railroads and canals increased the amount of goods and people being moved and how far goods and people could be moved. They created a system where more could be moved faster for more profit. This process compounded and swelled the economy of Britain. So for instance, the more money you had, the more types of transport, the more transport infrastructure you could make. And the more transport infrastructure you had, then that means the more money you could make. So that's why the economy swelled. For the Industrial Revolution to occur, Britain had to move raw materials to factories or ports. This is where railways and canals came in. And there's a quick little video explaining that a bit further as well. So let's have a look at canals. So canals are waterway channels used to transport goods and people that were created during the Industrial Revolution. They were essentially man-made rivers. Barges were the boats used to carry the goods. So this is a barge here. Barges were pulled by horses. Using horses to pull the barges was safer and faster than using roads and rivers because roads had potholes and were slow, and rivers could have currents as well that could slow you down as well. So here we've got railways and a steam locomotive. So in 1812, John Blenkinsop built the first steam-powered locomotive to transport coal. Blenkinsop's locomotive could only travel 6 kilometres an hour and could haul 90 tonnes of coal, which would have taken 50 horses. In 1825, George Stephenson designed the steam locomotive known as the Rocket. This locomotive could travel 38 kilometres per hour. The Rocket was officially opened to the public in 1830 and carried coal and people between Manchester and Liverpool and became the standard model for all steam locomotives. And we'll talk a bit more about that competition in a second, where the Rocket became the main design and was the fastest, so won the competition. And then by 1852, there grew to be just over 10,000 kilometres of railway tracks in Britain, meeting the demand for fast and reliable transport of raw materials that allowed the Industrial Revolution to happen, especially materials from mines. So here you've got some source work to do. We're going to go over these answers together. So there are 4 sources in total, and we'll go over all the sources now together too. So source 1 is about the Rocket. So this is a page from Helen Knight's book called Puffing Billy and the Prize Rocket, or the story of Stephenson's and our railways, published in 1875. This extract details the trial the Rocket won to become the design for steam locomotives between Liverpool and Manchester. So let's read it first here. "The Rocket is all right and ready," wrote the young man joyfully. That was the engine's name, Rocket, on account of its speed, perhaps. Puffing Billy was quite cast into a shade. It was shortly shipped to Liverpool in time for the grand trial. The trial, rapidly approaching, elicited a great and general interest. The public mind was astir. The day fixed was the 1st of October. Engineers, mechanics, and scientific men, far and near, flocked to Liverpool. The ground where the exhibition was to take place was a level piece of railroad 2 miles long, a little out of the city. Each engine was to make 20 trips at a rate of a speed not under 10 miles an hour, and 3 competent men were appointed as judges. 4 engines were entered on the list: the Novelty, the Sans Pareil, the Rocket, and Perseverance. So they're the 4 steam engines that were entered into the competition. So let's see if we can have a go at answering these questions now. Number 1, is this a primary or secondary source, and why? Let's have a look here. So it seems that our author Helen Knight was not there during the trial and must have gathered other sources. So I would say this is a secondary source. You can also tell because it's published in 1875. Who made the source? We've got Helen Knight. That's a pretty easy one. When was the source made? 1875. Now let's have a look at the source a bit more in depth and answer these questions. According to Knight, why was the locomotive called the Rocket? We've got that here because on account of its speed, because it was really fast. Here we've got, why did the trial gain the interests of engineers, mechanics and scientists. Let's go back to that part here. Rapidly elicited great general interest. The public mind was astir, so everyone wanted to see which of these great four trains would win. And all these types of professions would have been involved or interested in trains, so that would be my answer for number 5. Number 6, how many test trips did the engines have to complete? It says here they had to complete 20 trips of this track 2 miles long. Number 7, how long was the test railroad? I've given that away. 2 miles long. We can see that there. What speed could the engines not go under? We've got that here at a rate of speed not under 10 miles an hour, so they couldn't go under 10 miles an hour. Name the other 3 engines. We've got those here as well. We've got the Novelty, 1, 2, and 3 with Perseverance. Let's have a look at source 2 now. So a sketch of George Stephenson's rocket found in Mechanics Magazine, 1829. So is this a primary or secondary source? Why? Well, this is a primary source because it's found in a magazine that's during the time of study, but also the person who made this this drawing would have had to have seen the rocket. So that's a first-hand account of the past. Where was this source found? It was found in Mechanics Magazine. When was the source made? It was 1829. Why is the man on the left holding a shovel? Because he's got to shovel the coal into the steam engine. And what do you think is located in the barrel of the carriage? Well, that's the coal. So that's a pretty easy source there. Source 3, a replica made in 2004 of the rocket that was designed in 1829. So is this a primary or secondary source? It's a secondary source because it's a replica. Remember, the source is actually what's in the photo and not the photo itself. When was the source made? This was made in 2004. And why do you think there's a replica of the rocket preserved in a museum? So pretty much so modern day people like you and me can go and see what the rocket looked like in person. Source 4, we got a page from Gordon Thompson's book called The Canal System of England, Its Growth and Present Condition, with particular reference to the cheap carriage goods, published in 1904. This extract discusses the construction of canals in England planned from 1700 to 1830. So is this a primary or secondary source? It's a secondary source because it discusses canals in these times here, but it was made in 1904. Who made the source? We've got up here Gordon Thompson. He used other sources to put his book together. When was it made? It was made in 1904. Okay, now we've got to read the source a little bit here too. So let's identify some things that this source is talking about. So projects were entered upon improving and canalising the following rivers. So we were going to turn the following rivers into canals. That was the plan here. In 1720, the Leeds and Liverpool, and 1730, the Stroudwater canals begun construction. And then another key point here, from 1730 to 1830, upwards of 90 canals were projected. So we can tell here there was a lot of plans to make a lot of canals from very early on in the Industrial Revolution to move goods around the country. So we've done those questions there. So let's get into number 4. Name 3 canal systems improvement projects planned between 1700 to 1720. So that's these ones up here, and we'll zoom in on those. So you can pick any 3 of those rivers that they were going to turn into canals or make canals with. Number 5, what year did the construction of the Leeds and Liverpool Canal begin? We've got that one here in 1720. The Leeds and Liverpool Canal began construction. Next one here, number 6, how many canals were planned to be built between 1730 and 1830? Here we've got our answer there. From 1730 to 1830, upwards of 90 canals were projected. These canals would be how long in length once completed? Let's read this paragraph here. We're projected to bring the total length of the canal system in England to 4,700 miles long. So that's our answer. The total cost would be upwards of £14 million. And that's how much it costs, £14 million. So that's all our answers for our source questions, guys. Let's look at task number 2, our last task. So use the notes above to answer these questions in your workbook. So answering the source questions in your workbook too. So we need to use these notes here. Let's see how we go. So what are canals? Canals are man-made rivers using barge and horses to transport a large amount of goods. What was the name of the boat that moved goods in canals? So there are barges. How do these boats move? They were pulled by horses. Why were canals better than rivers and roads to move goods? Because rivers had currents, so you'd be fighting the current, and roads had bumps in them, and you couldn't transport as much in a horse and cart. Who invented the first steam-powered locomotive to transport coal? we go up here. We've got John Blenkinsop. Number 5, when was it invented? I should have got that one while I was there. 1812. Next one, who invented the steam locomotive? Here we've got George Stephenson in 1825. What is the name of this locomotive? Is the Rocket. So we've done 8 and 9. Number 10, how many other engine designs did it need to beat during the Liverpool to Manchester design trial of 1825? There were another 3 engines that it beat. How fast can this steam locomotive travel? We'll go back up here, 38 kilometers per hour. Go back down. Number 12, how many kilometers of railway did Britain have by 1852? We've got over 10,000 kilometers. And then number 13, explain how the transport system of canals and railways evolved British society and industry. Your answer needs to be in 2 sentences long. So just make sure, roughly to answer this question, you need to be 2 sentences long anyway for your answers. So pretty much, when you want to explain how transport systems of canals and railways evolved British society and industry, these transport technologies allowed people to move goods much faster and many more goods, amounts of goods at once. So all of a sudden your industries could boom, people could have more jobs. So essentially being able to move more and being able to move faster supported industrialization and caused a lot more jobs, a lot more factories in British society. And guys, once you finish all that, you can do a summary of today's lesson by clicking this logo here, and it'll access a Kahoot for that summary as well. So a bit of fun there. So thanks for watching, guys. That was our 3rd lesson on the causes of the Industrial Revolution, looking at transport technologies. If you like using this website or want to stay updated to any new websites or any new lessons that are made in existing websites, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe.